Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome to TillesTells Stories for Saturday night. The title of this week's video is An Old-Time Delicacy. I adapted the story from the website l'chaimweekly.org. It contains much about circumcision, a major theme in the Shabbat Torah reading today, and also a strong parallel to the miracle of the oil jars in the Haftorah of Vayera this week. One time, at a Farbringen, a Hasidic gathering where the Hasidim were sitting and drinking honey mead, which used to be a very popular drink, a Chassid named Reb Moshe told the following story. Many years ago, he began, when visiting Vienna, I sent my servant to a nearby Jewish inn to buy a bottle of honey mead. When he came back, I discovered that it was the most delicious mead I had ever tasted. In fact, it was so good that I immediately sent him back to buy more. I gave him enough money for 10 bottles, figuring that my family and I would enjoy it for a long time to come. But my servant came back empty-handed. I took out a few more coins from my pocket, but he shook his head. It isn't the money, he told me. There just isn't any more to be had. I decided to go see for myself. When I entered the inn, I saw a large crowd of people who apparently just finished eating a festive meal. I approached the innkeeper and asked him to sell me some of his delicious honey wine. I'm sorry, he said, but there isn't even a single drop left of that particular type. Well, when do you expect to get more? I persisted. Quite frankly, never, the innkeeper said firmly, and then told me the following intriguing explanation. Many years before, he had been a mohel, a circumciser. From the very beginning of his holy work, he had set himself one cardinal rule, that he would never refuse a request to perform a brit milah circumcision ceremony, no matter how difficult the circumstances. One year, on the day before Yom Kippur, a Jewish farmer had knocked on his door and asked him to circumcise his 8-day-old son. The farmer lived quite a distance away, 36 kilometers, 22 and a half miles, and it was the day before Yom Kippur. Nevertheless, the mohel agreed to conduct the brit. When he stepped outside, the mohel realized that the farmer was too poor to have hired a carriage. Neither was the mohel himself a man of means. There was no choice but to walk the entire distance. The farmer started out in the direction of his house, but he was walking so quickly that the mohel lagged behind. Eventually, the farmer disappeared behind a bend in the road. Hours later, the mohel arrived in town and asked a few locals where the family with the new baby lived. When he walked into the house, he found the mother lying in bed with the infant. She was so weakened that she could barely respond. The father, however, was nowhere to be seen. For some reason, he hadn't thought it important to attend his own son brit milah. The mohel now faced a serious problem. Who would serve as sandek to hold the baby on his knees during the procedure? Such an important role. Time was of the essence. It was the 8th day of the infant's life, and he needed to be entered into the covenant of Abraham immediately. But without a sandek, it would be very dangerous. Indeed, he had never attempted to circumcise while holding the baby on his own lap. And the mohel walked outside, hoping to find someone on the street he could ask. For a long time he waited, but the street was deserted. So finally, he spotted an old beggar coming around the corner. I'm in a big hurry, the man replied impatiently when the mohel asked for his assistance. Today is Yom Kippur Eve, and I can collect a whole ruble going door to door if I get to the city on time. Desperate by them, the mohel promised to pay him a ruble himself if he would only serve as sandek. The beggar agreed, and the brit milah was conducted without incident. The mohel then left for the long walk back to the city. After praying the afternoon service, the mohel went home for the final meal before the fast. He was astonished to see the very same beggar waiting on his doorstep. He quickly paid him the ruble he had promised. However, the beggar did not leave after this, as the mohel had expected. Instead, he demanded a drink of mead. The mohel was very tired by then and in no mood for entertaining. Nevertheless, he invited the man inside and poured the drink. But even that wasn't enough for the strange old man. He insisted that the mohel join him in a glass of mead, and that they wish each other Shana Tova Umetuka, a good and sweet year. With no alternative, the mohel complied. Tell me, is there any more of this honey wine left in the barrel? The annoying stranger persisted. Very little, the mohel answered, only a few more drops. There will always be mead in this barrel, the beggar then pronounced cryptically, until the last blessing is recited at your youngest son's wedding celebration. That blessing was filled in its entirety, the innkeeper concluded his tale. There is no explanation other than that the old man was Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Navi. With my seemingly endless supply of meat, I opened this inn and completely forgot about the rest of his prediction. That is, until today, when the barrel suddenly fell and broke into pieces as we were reciting the grace after meals at my younger son's wedding. And that is why I am telling you there will never be any more of this particular batch of mead. Now, it's true that one of Eliyahu Navi's roles is to appear at every Brit Milah. That's why there's a chair for Elijah. But another one of his roles is to arrive shortly before the scheduled arrival of Mashiach, to tell everybody to get ready. May we see that be absolutely soon, even today.